All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is DrMarcBellas. I am the Chief Strategy and Sustainability Officer for Pasco County. Although Pasco County just jumped into the resilience and sustainability world about 2 years ago, we are catching up very quickly. And I want to share a good story with you this morning because my father taught me when I was a kid, do never underestimate the power of a good story. We got a good one for you. And actually, Amber teed it up nicely because this story started 60 years ago with Hurricane Donna and the damage that it did here. And what we were able to find out in a very short period of time and take some action on is that if actions that had been planned in the 1960s had actually been taken, we in Pasco County may not have seen the damage that we just did with these hurricanes. So that's what I'm going to share with you right now. All right. Next. There we go. Okay. So as Amber pointed out, 1961, that was right after Hurricane Donna. That was when Swift Mode was actually established. All the water management districts were. And the very first customer here was the Army Corps. And they came in and looked at an area of about 6,000 square miles. It's about 15 counties worth that had the tremendous flooding. At the time, the intent of the project was not to protect people, but at the time to protect agriculture, because that had taken a big hit. Citrus, pine, those industries took a big hit during that time. So what they did is they came in and they looked at this entire area, and then they designed a series of canals, structures that would prevent flooding. They looked at a number of areas. I'll show you a map up here. Okay. If you see the map here, you see Pasco County is outlined. This is the entire area that was impacted severely by Hurricane Donna. The Army Corps came in and they designed a number of structures, almost 30 tall. If you look at the green lines on this map, those are the structures that were designed. The red lines are those that were built. You heard Amber talk about the Tampa Bypass Canal down in the center there, the red line, and then the Tampa or the Lake Tarpon outfall, and then just above Cruz Lake. None of the other structures were actually built. At the time, there was a political struggle in the Everglades. Should we drain it or should we save it? The decision was to save it. Good decision. But the money for these projects went south, and that's where the whole project stopped. At that point in time, the Army Corps of Engineers put the whole thing on hold, put it on a shelf, never to be talked about again for many, many, many years. When we established our Office of Strategy and Sustainability, one of the things we looked at is what we had just gone through with the storms. Unprecedented flooding. You guys had it out here all over the county. We knew there was tremendous amount of damage on the coast and inland. A lot of things happened that people had never experienced here before. There were not just records amount of rain, but you may not realize it, but at any point in time during those storms, all of our major evacuation routes at one point or another were flooded. They were flooded. So that's not acceptable. That's rough stuff. Now, here's what we figured out, and this is why we decided to move on this project again. We decided to do an overlay map to see exactly what the Army Corps had intended back in the 1960s. And ironically, everything that the Army Corps had designed, especially in Pasco County, if you did an overlay, those blue circles, those are exactly where we experienced most of the flooding during the storms. Dade City, Zephyr Hills, Cypress Creek, the Anclote River. The Army Corps knew back in the 1960s what we were just about to expect and what we actually realized. That got our attention, and it got a lot of other folks' attention too. So like Congressman Bill Rackus, Buchanan, Lee, Scott, they all took a look at this. We gave presentations to all of them and said, we got to do something with this. So we went back to the Army Corps and said, all right, guys, you did this back in the 60s. We just went through this horrific series of storms, unprecedented damage. Is there something that we can do to bring this Four Rivers Basin project back to life? And they said, well, yes and no. The yes is, well, the project is still a live project because the Army Corps doesn't close it out until it's either done or it's discontinued, and that has to be through authorization of Congress. They said, but it's not going to be an easy thing to do. You're going to have to get politically savvy. You're going to have to get fast at it. And you're going to have to be better than the people in South Florida who seem to get all the money from Congress when it comes down to it. And that's exactly what we found out. So we decided to meet with the folks in the South and say, hey, how do you do it? How do you guys get all the money? We don't seem to get it up here in the northern part of the state or the central part. And they said, well, you got to get close with the politicians. We said, okay, we get it. We don't know any different. Okay. Interesting too. They also said, you're going to have a hard time working with the Army Corps because they're really mean people. We said, well, we didn't figure that. They're just people trying to do a job. We got to do a job. So why don't we work with them? Well, interestingly enough, I could say on the phone, they have us on speed dial now. We love them. They love us. It's great. And this is going to benefit us. I'll show you that here. So we went back to them and said, hey, we want to, at least in Pasco County, take a look at these areas again. You came in, you did an assessment. Actually, the reports are all available if you're interested. They're in the Library of Congress. That's where we found it. Because not too many people knew about this. Not too many people knew that this even happened. But we looked at the reports and found that they were really quite thorough in what they determined. And with the information that SwiftMud now has, staying up to date in this entire area, we said, hey, can we reauthorize this? Can you come in and give another look at Pasco County and what we're doing? So we went back and we said, all right, we need to get a reevaluation done by the Army Corps. We want to look at these basins again. We want to get an idea of what the current realities are. Now, you go back to the map, you'll see probably not feasible to build a 23-mile berm anywhere in Pasco County anymore. There's just no property to do that, right? But there's got to be something. And even if those adaptations can't be built again, we will have enough information to inform the citizenry that if you live here, you saw the brochure that Amber showed you, we can do that in Pasco County, same thing. If you live here, this is what you can expect in your property in these conditions, so that folks can make informed decisions. A lot of what we hear in meetings are, I didn't know I lived in a sealed basin. I never saw this coming. No one told me. Well, yeah, they knew 60 years ago, but it's been on a shelf. So we had to go through this process of getting folks involved. Congressman Bill Rackus wrote a letter with Buchanan and Lee countersigning it. Rick Scott's team up in DC went to work for us as well. We got this in front of the Assistant Secretary of the Army for the Civil Works, who is the top of the food chain in the Army Corps of Engineers. And he said, yes. So we just a week ago found out that this entire project and the entire map was reauthorized, which means not only can Pasco County, in cooperation and partnership with SwiftMud, come back in and revisit Pasco, but that entire region, all those projects that were green, are now open for local jurisdictions to revisit with the help of the Army Corps. So we've actually done something that's going to help the entire region over the long term. Now that's, and we're pretty excited about that. That is what we attempted to do. We wanted to do. We were not smart enough to realize that it's a real tough process. So we just did it anyway, and it worked. And we found out that everybody wanted to be part of making things better here. Now, you tie that back economically. In our Office of Resilience and Sustainability, again, I've been with the county 14 years. We just started this thanks to Ron Oakley and the board saying, hey, we better focus on it. We realized that a lot of folks who have been at this for a while, we can learn from, and we are learning from them. And part of this is, how can you be preventive? So don't wait for the storm to hit. How can we do things ahead of time proactively to prevent damage to businesses, to areas, to neighborhoods, flooding, things like that? And that's what we're about. So we're getting ahead of the curve. We love what's going on. It's happening fast. In fact, one of the joke last week was that we got approval from the Army Corps so quickly, it created a shockwave in DC and shut the entire government down. Now, I don't know anything about that. Don't know that happened. Seems reasonable, but we're looking forward to it. And you folks out here are going to benefit from this big time. So more to come. We'll keep you up to speed on what's happening here with the Corps, SwiftMud, and how we're making things better here out for Pasco County. So thank you all.